And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, I reviewed Coup a few years ago. Coup is an amazing game. The first time I played it, which wasn't even in the indie boards and cards box, it was just a small little game. And it's basically a game where you're like, I'm telling the truth. And the other person says, you might be lying. That's all Coup is, really. It's a simple, fast game with player elimination, and yet it works well. Now we're going to add in Coup Reformation. This adds a little bit of the game Resistance. They're set in the same universe anyway, I think. And this adds some of that into the game. An expansion for such a simple Coup game, what's it going to add? More rolls? Convoluted stuff? Not quite. Here's what it has. At the beginning of the game, if you're playing with the allegiance part of this set, each player is given an allegiance card. The first player takes one, doesn't matter which, they can pick loyalist or reformist, and then the next person takes one of the opposite side, and you just go around the table as every other person is one of these types. Now, the reason you are one of the types of these factions, your allegiance, you cannot go after someone who's the same allegiance as you. You can't coup them, you can't assassinate them, you can't steal from them, you can't block foreign aid that they're getting. However, you can pay 1 coin, if you want to change your own allegiance. You can pay 2 coins to change someone else's allegiance. If everybody's the same allegiance, then all bets are off. You can go after each other. But you're going to be changing your allegiance and other people's allegiance as the game goes by. Now, every time that you pay to change or mess with someone else's allegiance, you're not going to be putting money in the regular bank. A treasury card is in the middle of the table, and so coins are going to be piled up on this as players change their and other people's allegiance. And so now there's a new action. You can take all the money from here. It's called embezzle. However, you're not allowed to have the Duke. So if you have the Duke, someone can call you out and say, I think you have the Duke. And then if you do, the same thing happens as if you get called out anytime you want. So this is the allegiance part. They also include some inquisitors. These are people who are going to take the place of the ambassador. So let's compare the two of these. Basically, you're just replacing the ambassador. Now, the ambassador can exchange the cards with the court deck, and he also blocks stealing. The inquisitor also blocks stealing, but you can exchange a card with the card deck, or you can basically look at someone else's hand. So the taking a card from the deck is the same thing. You take a card from someone's hand, add it to your own. You take a card from the court deck, add it to your own, then you look at those and you put one back. However, the other one, which is a bigger deal, you look at someone else's card, they pick one of their cards, they'll give it to you, you look at it, and you can either give that card back, or you can force that person to draw a new card. So you basically can get rid of them. You also can't check somebody who's the same allegiance as you, unless, of course, everyone is the same allegiance. So that's pretty much everything in this set, with the exception. It also adds 2 more cards of each player. And this is in case you want to go up to a 10-player game. You now have enough stuff that you can play a larger game. That's what's included in this expansion. I'm always very pleased when I play an expansion and I'm like, wow, this expansion's so good, I'm never going to play the base game without it. And that's how I feel. I liked Coup a lot. Adding in Coup Reformation, like, why was I ever not playing with this? I didn't know it existed, right? But it's a great addition. The Inquisitor, I think, is better than the Ambassador. Buy Ambassador, boom. If I have my choice, I'm always playing with the Inquisitor. Although I can play the Ambassador, it's not a big deal. And those having the different affiliations, wow, that's so cool. You actually are trying to help someone out in your affiliation, not because you want them to win, but because you want to keep them around a little bit so that they don't come after you, and you're trying to build up your own thing, and you take out the other people, and so you're switching teams. It adds in that extra embezzle action, which is great for those people who say they have the Duke. You just said you had the Duke, and now look at all that money in the middle. You just taking it? I thought you said you had the Duke. Well, I was lying before, but I'm not lying now. So that's it. It adds a little bit more lying and a little bit more interaction without adding much complexity at all. You don't have to sit there and go, who's on what team again? No, you just see who's on what team. Team affiliations change. We're all on the same team, take each other out. If you played Coup before, you can easily learn this. Now, there's one part of this, though, that's horrible, okay? That is the part where it now goes up to 10 players. No. When the rules of an expansion say you can play with up to 10 players, but we highly recommend that you think carefully about this because it will really lengthen the game out. When the rules themselves tell you that, you know you need to be careful. I know some people were screaming and saying, yes, give us more players. I'm not one of them. Coup maxes out marvelously at 6. It doesn't need more. But if you want to play more, that's all on you. But I'm not going to do that because it's going to take so much longer. And since the game is an elimination game, you're going to be sitting out that much more. Still, I don't care about those extra cards not needed. The other stuff, add it to it, great. I'm always going to play Coup with it if I can help it. I'll teach new people with it. It's not a whole lot extra stuff to learn or figure out. It comes with new reference cards. They're not as big as these. I wish they were. The bigger ones are nicer. But small reference cards that explain how everything works. Yay, an essential expansion. A good one. I'm so pleased. Dice Tower Judgment into my collection.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.
Shut the door!